Patch 3.3 marks past the halfway point for Episode 3 Act 1. A lot has changed in-game after the meta settled from the big meta shifts Patch 3.0 brought us. With that being said, let's talk about how the meta has shifted so that you can be informed on what agents you should be playing in the last leg of Act 1. What is going on, ProGuides family? It is your host Sergeant Frost, and today we have the Patch 3.3 tier list. Let's not waste any more time and get right into it. At the top of the S tier, we have none other than your favorite duelist, Jett. I will admit, it is quite impressive that Jett has been able to remain at the top of the meta tier list for this long. There are many different reasons for her dominance that play a part in her being on top. Part of the reason she's so strong is due to the fact that other duelists have been considerably weaker as of late after different nerfs that they received in the start of Episode 3. Another reason is due to the fact that now that the AWP is prevalent in the meta again, Jett has yet another reason to be welcomed into every team comp and solo queue. I think we already know how great she is as an entry and an aggressive agent, but she just has too many good options, and the player base only gets more and more skilled with piloting her. Simply put, Jett is still the queen of duelists right now because she can fulfill several roles in the game while other duelists can only specialize in a few. Jett can entry, she can AWP, she can lurk, she can rifle, anchor, she can do it all, and that's why she's at the top of the S tier and the meta. Viper is still in S tier as the best controller in the game, but she has been knocked down a bit in patch 3.3. Riot fixed a bug where she could place her ultimate on her cursor instead of it deploying on herself like it should have. This bug fixes an indirect nerf because being able to place your ult on your cursor gave Viper a lot more versatility with how she could deploy her ultimate. As a Viper main myself, I enjoy being able to place my ult around corners or from behind cover because it allowed me to be safe while using it or not requiring me to peek an angle to place it well. Despite that bug fix though, Viper's ultimate is still just as good, and her kit is as powerful as ever. Her mollies are still amazing for post plants and general control. Her wall is still one of the best vision blocking tools in Valorant, especially on maps like Breeze, Split, and Icebox. Her smoke and ultimate are great for warding off enemies and punishing players who are trying to push past them. I think you get the idea. Viper is still a staple in the meta and she's a great controller sentinel hybrid. Closing out the S tier is Sova. I think Episode 3 has made it pretty clear in solo queue that information is still king. Initiators are always a staple on a team, and it is mainly due to their ability to gather information safely and quickly. With that being said, Sova is still at the top of the initiator class for patch 3.3. KO has not been living up to expectations in a solo queue environment this act, and that has brought him down in our tier list, which we will talk about more later. But since KO has definitely moved out of the way, Sova has reclaimed his spot as the undisputed best initiator in the game currently. But despite him being the best initiator, it takes a skilled player not only to pilot him properly, but to also understand when information is more important and what to do with it. That's why, if you want to become a master of not only Sova as an agent, but also understand the information game better, we encourage you to check out our website ProGuides.com, where our Radiant and Immortal level coaches are more than happy to teach you the secrets to dominate ranked. We also have a course from Average Jonas himself who will not only teach you the secrets of mastering an agent, but also how to adapt to any meta. So if you're serious about improving as a player, we're here to help. At the top of the A tier this patch we have Killjoy. Killjoy has made her way to the top of the A tier mostly because of a map meta shift. Now that Breeze has been out for a few months, players are now starting to figure out the best ways to play on that map. This includes different attacking and defending strategies and meta team comps. One agent that was assumed to be bad on Breeze was Killjoy, but after some experimenting by pros in scrims, a lot of high-level players are starting to run Killjoy on Breeze. There are two main reasons here. First, she's an exceptional anchor for the A bomb site on that map, and secondly, Killjoy is a great flank watcher when attacking because of her bots. Killjoy can get great information if you put your turret on the stairs on A site. This allows the turret to chip away at attackers as they walk in, and if you place it just right behind the top of the stairs, it will be really difficult for the attackers to shoot it out. You also can place your bot in tunnels or in double doors to watch your mid flank so that you won't have to dedicate a player to watch it. This frees up your map strategy because that one player can play elsewhere and have influence on the map. Killjoy is now a viable and meta pick for Breeze, and that basically helps her cover up all the weaknesses to become a meta pick for pretty much every map. Another agent moving up to A tier this patch is Skye. Lately, Skye has started to come back into the spotlight for a few reasons. First of all, KO did not fulfill his role as a flash agent as well as people thought, so he's out of the question. And Breach is still struggling after his buffs for reasons we'll cover later. Secondly, information is king, and Skye's information gathering got a nice boost from the Episode 3 changes to her Tiger. Finally, her flashes are just the most broken flashes in the game right now, and Episode 3 only made them easier to control. Now that people have started to realize just how powerful Skye's flashes can be for the pop flashing of corners or out of smokes, she has been tearing up solo queue and there's almost no counterplay. As such, she's found her way to the A tier and will probably stay that way unless her flashes get nerfed. Sage, as always, remains in the A tier as an amazing pick for supporting and enabling strategies. Her healing is unmatched, her slows and wall are great tools for map reconstruction and stalling, and her revive is still a round-changing ultimate as well. I personally think that Sage is a must-have in ranked, but she is definitely an agent that should be high on your priority list when crafting team comps in ranked. Although she's been nerfed many times, her wall is still a meta-defining piece of utility that will no doubt be used for many strategies on basically every map. Times have been looking up for our spooky boy Omen as of late. The meta has settled enough to where Viper and Omen have their own unique identities and roles in the game. What I mean by that is that Viper and Omen are better known on certain maps compared to others. For example, you'd rather have an Omen on Haven, Bind, Ascent, and Split. And on the opposite, you would rather have Viper on Breeze, Icebox, and Split sometimes as well. These two basically have separate maps where they flourish in, without having to contest with each other. Although Omen lacks the defensive power that Viper has, he has more aggressive utility that can make him scary to run into during games. Closing out the A tier is Reyna. Recently I figured out why a lot of people might be frustrated with Reyna's in solo queue, and it's due to the fact that Reyna is really simple, but also gets rewarded for doing very simple things as well. Reyna has to worry about two things in game: getting kills and throwing her flash out for control. Compared to all the other duelists who have unique identities and utility that can be used for different purposes, Reyna focuses on taking good fights and profiting off individual skill or positioning. It is one-tracked in many ways, which makes her weaker in certain situations, but it's greatly beneficial when trying to carry a ranked game where you're trying to win as many duels as possible. As such, she's still great for playing ranked, but you have to make sure you can outduel your opponent first. Okay, here's the biggest change for this tier list compared to our last two, and I think if you have played ranked in the past month, you can understand why. KO is being demoted to B tier, and it's simply because he is just not a good fit for ranked. I think there is still a lot to learn about KO and the new suppression mechanics, so he's not bad, but he's definitely not easy to play with in uncoordinated situations. KO as an agent is simple on paper, but it is very hard to get the insane value that he can provide. For example, you would need knife lineups, pop flashes, and molly lineups to really make each of his abilities shine, but no one really has reached that level yet. Also, I think people just aren't comfortable working with KO's flash at the moment, and people will need to get past that hesitation before KO can find his groove again. Raze is a very weird agent, since she has some of the most situationally amazing abilities, but in general isn't an amazing pick. She's decent on Bind and Split because her boombot clears out for more information, and her nades are very good at clearing chokes or hiding spots. Yet at the same time, she doesn't have the abilities to lead a team as well as an agent like Jett, and she also doesn't flourish in a solo queue environment like Reyna. She's good and pretty simple to use, but it's hard to really find moments where you think, man, I wish I was Raze. And that's why she sits in the B tier as a decent pick, but not an amazing one. Cypher as a whole hasn't changed too much in the meta, and still sits somewhere in the middle to lower half of the roster. He has niche uses that are pretty good on certain maps like Haven and Bind, but isn't quite meta-defining in any respects either. His setups are still one of his strongest points, and the buffs to his wires as well, as the lowering of his ultimate cost has definitely helped him out. But other than that, he still's the same old Cypher. Not much more and definitely not much less, especially since KO isn't popular. Phoenix is still struggling a bit in the meta as of recent. He doesn't quite pack a punch like he used to, and on top of that, Jett and Raze are just much faster than him when it comes to entering into sites. So in the meantime, Phoenix is down in B tier because there are other duelists that are doing his job better than he can right now. He used to be great for his versatile abilities, but as of late, it seems like he's a jack of all trades and a master of none, and it definitely hurts him a lot at times. Turns out there's a little hope for Astra. A lot of people overreacted to her nerfs in patch 3.0, including us, and she was relegated to C tier in most people's minds for episode 3. As it turns out, Astra is still a niche meta pick for maps like Split and Bind. Those maps have multiple choke points, and the onus is on the attackers to go for complete map control by walking through said choke points. So that means Astra can still perform well. However, she is still a fragment of the star she used to be, as she is no longer the queen of controllers and viable on every map, mostly due to her cooldown nerfs. Simply put, there was never much of a question whether Brimstone could be useful or not, but he was typically overshadowed by all the other controllers who still had more uses or offered unique hybrid playstyles. His smokes are still the best, and his molly is now the longest lasting molly after Viper's snakebite nerfs. Yet it also has to be noted that there's really little extra you can do with Brimstone as well. He's pretty much what you expect and not much more. So when you pick Brim, you know what you're signing up for. A generally decent agent, but only a decent agent. Now let's wrap up the video with the C tier. Even though Breach got some nice changes to his kit to start episode 3, he has fallen into the same boat as KO where he isn't picked a lot despite having a relatively strong kit in itself. A part of the problem is that since people don't play with Breach often, and since Breach is an initiator, his potential is directly hurt since people don't know how to work with him. Breach is known to be weaker in a solo queue environment as he was designed for team play due to the nature of his AoE CC abilities. I think Breach has the potential to be used more in the meta, but time will tell if the community can find special uses for him, or generally just learn to play around him. Okay, you know the drill, Yoru is still at the bottom of the tier list. Unfortunately, the dev team is running into some problems with his rework, so we will have to wait a little bit longer to see what they have in store for him. But don't lose hope yet, at least we know it's coming. It's really only a matter of when at this point. And that concludes our patch 3.3 tier list. If you enjoyed this tier list, make sure to drop a like and subscribe to keep up to date with the latest Valorant news, updates, and guides. Also, make sure to check out our website for some truly amazing on-demand coaching. This has been your host, Sergeant Frost, and I will see you all again in the next video.